Good day to all my Stadio lecturers and assessors. I am Marilynn Naidoo and I would just like to welcome you to my video for my formal lesson for natural science and technology. The topic is on fossils and more intricately differentiating between body and trace fossils. Good morning, class.
Good morning, ma'am.
Has everyone gotten their worksheet in front of them?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I want each of you to have a look at the two pictures that are right on the top of the worksheet. Have you found it?
Is it on page 2?
No, it is on page 1 and it is right at the top. Is everyone now on the first page of the worksheet?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now I want you to take a close look at the two pictures that you see in front of you. And I want you to tell me what you see. Hands up. Yes?
I see people sitting on the rocks.
Okay, what about you?
It looks like mountains.
Okay, and what do you think that these people are doing? Yes?
Digging.
Okay,
It looks like they're trying to find something in the rocks or mountains.
very good. Okay, tell me, have you seen something like this before? Yes or no?
Yes.
Good. And can you tell me or describe to me where you've seen something like this?
It looks like the human version of my dog digging up the sand in my dad's garden.
Okay.
It looks like how farmers plant seeds.
Great responses, boys and girls. Now we will come back to these two pictures in a moment. Now I want you to keep these pictures in your mind because now we're going to read a short story and the story is going to help us develop answers as to what is happening in these pictures. Boys and girls, I want you to follow along with me in your worksheet. Some of you may get a chance to read, and in order to do this, you need to pace with us. So follow along with us very carefully. To kick things off, the first reading is going to be done by Zach.
Long, long ago, a dinosaur died on the bank of a river such as this. Ma'am, what is this word?
Triceratops.
Triceratops in the picture.
Good. So can everyone see the picture?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Can you name me some of the reasons or the causes of which this dinosaur had died? Yes.
Maybe he was sick.
Okay.
He could have been attacked by another animal.
Maybe he had an accident and fell on a sharp object.
Wow. Nice answers. So do you agree that the reasons could be countless that could tell how he died?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay, so let's turn over and continue our story, and we're going to get the next reader to please read.
The flesh of the dinosaur decomposes or other animals eat it, so only the skeleton remains.
Okay, what is the meaning of decompose? Yes,
It means that the dinosaur's flesh breaks down.
very good. Shim, could you please read the next part?
There was a flood and the river rose and covered the skeleton with mud and sand.
Okay, can everyone see the bones of the skeleton as it sinks deeper and deeper into the ground?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, can I please read next?
Can I read after Gabby?
Okay, so we're going to let Gabby read first, and thereafter Lexi, you're going to read. Okay, so Gabby, you can take it away.
Over time, more floods deposit more layers of sand and mud over the skeleton. Over thousands of years, the bottom layers start to become compacted and turn into sedimentary rock. Under the ground, water carried substances from rock into each little space where a bone had been. Rock took the place of bone. We say the bones were fossilized. A fossil bone has the same shape as the original bone, but it is much heavier.
Okay, so let's pause for a second. Everybody look up. Tell me, what has formed right now? Yes?
Is it a fossil?
Very good. It is a fossil. And what was the first picture that we have seen? Yes?
A dead dinosaur.
Okay, so a dead dinosaur is what we saw. So what exactly has happened to our dead dinosaur to get it from there, where we saw it lying on the ground dead, to right now where we are in the story. What had happened to it? Yes?
The dinosaur died, and over time, the flesh was eaten and decomposed. And after a flood, the skeleton was covered with sand and sank deeper in the ground, and it became a fossil.
Thank you. Who do you think found this fossil? Was this fossil lying on the ground, or was it lying below the ground? Anybody? Yes?
People had to dig in the ground for them, like a scientist.
Very good. So a paleontologist is a scientist who studies fossils, and they are very interested in digging up these old remains because they tell us about life that existed before we were around. So we learned a new word, paleontologist. Can you say that word with me?
Paleontologist.
Very good. And a paleontologist is someone who studies fossils. Okay, so we're going to let Lexi do a last bit of her reading.
Millions of years later, the conditions of the environment above the skeleton may change. The rock is eroded and weathered over time by wind and water, and the fossil is exposed on the surface. A scientist sees the fossil and a great discovery is made.
So what is discovered?
A fossil.
Fossil. And why is this discovery so great or so special? Yes?
Because it tells us about life that lived a long time ago.
Okay, so before we read the last part on the story of the Triceratops, I want you to think about those two pictures that you saw at the beginning of the lesson. Do you still remember those pictures?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now maybe your answers for those pictures have changed. I know some of you told me that it reminded you of your dog digging in the ground. Some of you said it looks like farmers. Now that you've read the story about the Triceratops, I'm sure that your answer might have slightly changed as to what exactly is happening in that picture, yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so is there anyone who would like to read the final part of the Triceratops story? Okay, you can.
Other scientists join in and they excavate the fossil by carefully removing the rock and sand around the skeleton. The fossil will be carefully packed and taken to a museum or
Research center.
or a research center where the scientists will study them to see what they can learn about prehistoric life. They will try to reassemble the bones into a full skeleton. This may take many months to do.
Thank you, Zach. Okay, so now before we move on, we can define fossils. Can anyone here give me an example of a definition of a fossil using their own words? Yes?
A fossil is a dead dinosaur.
Very good, Zach. So a fossil is preserved remains of plants and animals inside rocks, usually. And in the example, we looked at Triceratops, and Triceratops is obviously an animal. So a fossil can be a plant or it can be an animal. So if we had to consider a plant, how do you think our story would be different?
Plants do not have any bones.
Good point, Zach. Now, there's lots of things about the story that could change. There's lots of things that could stay the same. But what I want you to know is that plants and animals both form fossils. In the story that we did, it's just referring to a Triceratops. But in reality, it can be both plants and animals that create fossils. Okay, so now, more importantly, for this part of the lesson, I want to introduce you two special words, and that's body fossils and trace fossils. Can you say it with me? Body fossils?
Trace fossils.
Cool. So body fossils, just like how you have a full body, a body fossil includes the entire body of a animal or a plant. Now you may think that a plant doesn't have a body, but we refer to the whole structure of the plant as its body. So when we say body fossils, we're referring to the whole structure of either the plant or the animal. And then when we talk about trace structures, what can you tell me about the word trace? trace? It's a leading to something. It's not telling you the whole thing. What do you think?
A trace fossil is like when just say a dinosaur's fossil is like broken up and it's in different places.
Very good, Zach. You kind of jumped ahead of the lesson there, but good job. Trace fossil is exactly that. It is a part or a bit of either a plant or animal that has formed and that tells us about it. But it doesn't tell us the full story. It tells us bits and pieces. And in reality, some of the paleontologists and some of the scientists, they don't really find the entire body of the animal or the fossil. Usually they find them in parts and in traces. And therefore they use these traces and they pick it up over the years to develop their understanding on fossils of animals and plants on whole. Welcome to the fun part of the lesson, boys and girls. So for this part of the lesson, we are going to construct fossil models, and we're going to either construct body fossils or we're going to construct trace fossils. And to help me do this is Zachariah.
Hello.
Hi, Zach.
How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you for helping me today. So, thank you. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to explain to Zach what exactly I want him to do, and thereafter he's going to perform the method to produce a model of a fossil, and he's going to choose whether he wants to make a body fossil or a trace fossil. Okay, so to do this is very, very simple. It just takes a few tools and a simple method. The first thing we're going to need in our tools is a dry cup, a spoon for mixing, some water, not a lot, we don't need a lot of water. This is our key ingredient, and this is plaster of Paris, which is also called gypsum. We're going to need a rolling pin, and this is basically for flattening out our dough, our Play-Doh. And we're going to need some figurines. So we're going to focus on dinosaurs in this instant. So I have a whole array of dinosaurs, or you could use plants. Right, so with that being said, we are going to decide whether we want to do a body or a trace fossil. So if we're doing a bodied fossil, we are basically going to make sure that the imprint is fully on our plasticine. And if we are doing a trace fossil, then we are going to make sure that it's just the paws, or it's just the hands, or it's just the face. Or if it's a plant, then it's just a part of a tree or a part of the leaf. Okay, so we're going to, this is what you're going to do, okay? In your dry cup, you are going to pour in a little plaster of Paris, okay? So since you don't know the measurements, I am going to measure it out and I'm going to pour it for you. So it'll already be in the cup. Okay, so this is just me pouring in some plaster of Paris, which will help Zach make his mixture for his model. Okay, we have a fair amount of that, so we can just leave that on the other side. We have in the cup our dried plaster of Paris. So what you're going to do is, first we're going to just create a work area, and that we're going to do that by getting some newspaper, placing it neatly down, and then we're going to roll up some dough. Maybe you can help me roll up this part of this dough. Soften it out and you can roll it out. So this is basically our area that we're going to press in, make an imprint of either our body or our trace fossil, whichever one you decide to make. Right, so which one are you gonna do, Zach? Cool, he wants to do the Triceratops. So we're going to press our plasticine all the way down so we get a nice fine model. There we go. And then we're going to take our figurine and press it to make an imprint in the plasticine. Once we have done that, we're going to then roll out some more plasticine, which is basically strings like this, and we're going to make a mold around the edges of the already circular or whatever shape you have. So you basically want to create a bowl with your plasticine. Once you've done that, then you can pour in a little bit of water into your gypsum, and you're going to mix it until it's not very watery. You don't want it to be too watery because then it will take a very long time to dry. So you just want to put in a little bit of water, mix it up, and you also don't want it to be too thick and stiff because then that's going to be very hard to work with. Okay, so once you do this, you're going to mix it up nicely with your spoon, your dry spoon, and then you're going to pour it into your pool, basically your boundary, your wall of plasticine. Okay, and then you're going to leave that to dry, and after a few minutes we are going to see the results of our model. Okay, Zach, you can take it away. So what we see is Zach has already have his plasticine ready out for him. So he's just basically imprinting the Triceratops into his plasticine, so he can create somewhat of a mold. It's fine, that's good. Right now he's going to create his boundary. Thank you, Zach. So he's going to use those circular parts and he's going to create a mold around. Perfect. Very good job. Okay, so now what he's going to do is he's going to take his dry plaster of Paris, put in a little bit of water. I think I'll put it in for you. Okay, you can mix it up. Okay, if it is too watery, then we can put in more plaster of Paris, but I think it's going to be okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to, into our imprint and our boundary, he's going to pour in the mixture. Good job. Okay, so just to make sure that this plaster goes all around, you're just going to spread out the gypsum. Alright, and then we're going to leave it for a while. Okay, so before we close up this video, Zach has been a very important part in this video and he's been with us since the lesson introduction. So Zach, can you tell me, what do you know about fossils so far? What have you learnt?
Fossils are found underground.
Very good.
It's from dinosaurs.
Okay, and also plants. Okay. And remember in the story, the dinosaur had died and it took a lot of time until his bones sinked into the ground, and then those bones pressed further into the ground until they basically became fossils. Okay, and then we said that body fossils are the full body of the animal and trace fossils are the paws or another part that basically it's a trace, so it doesn't tell us the full thing. So looking at our model, what kind of fossil did we create? A body or a trace fossil?
Body.
Very good. And that's because it was the
Body.
The entire
Body.
Yes. Okay, good job, Zach. Thank you so much. Okay, so now we're going to look at the results of our dried model, which we had constructed in the previous part of this video. And with me, as usual, is my helper, Zach. And Zach is going to show me the different kinds of fossils that he has constructed in his molds.
Hello, back to the results of my body fossils and trace fossils. So I made some body fossils. This is how it looks, and there's another one that was in your worksheets. So what I did to make trace fossils is I took a normal body fossil and broke it like this T-Rex. It was a normal T-Rex that looks like this, but I broke it and made the head. So the body is on this side. So it's a trace fossil. I made some other ones like this one here, and then I made a plant that looks like this, and some feet. Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Boys and girls, I can see that we made some great progress, and I took a walk and I have seen some of the designs and the models that you have crafted in your body and your trace fossils, and there's some really good work. I know that there was a problem with finding out the right amount of plaster of Paris to the amount of water you need to combine so that there will be a good mixture for you. Like, you don't want it to get too thick where it was hard to pour out of the cup into your boundary, and you didn't want it to be too liquidy where it kind of just overflowed out of your boundary. But I see that Zach and a few others did help the rest of you who were struggling with that mixture, so thank you for that. Okay, so there were 5 questions that you had to concentrate on whilst doing your model making, and those questions were written on the board, and I just like to go over these questions. You know, there was 5 that I gave you, but I'm going to add some to that, and maybe you can take it down, and we're just going to discuss over it. So those of you who are completing your models, if you could just stop for a minute. I know most of you are waiting for it to dry. That shouldn't need or require your help, so you're just going to leave it aside and leave it alone, because if you interfere with it, it's going to mess up the fossil or the mold that you're trying to create. Okay, so can you hear me at the back? All good? All right, so let's move on. So in your model that you've created, I want to know, is it a body or a trace fossil? Hands up. Tell me which one you've designed, and let's start. Yes, you made a trace fossil. Okay, what about you? A trace fossil. Okay, anybody made body fossils? Okay, so tell me, Jude, what makes your mold a body fossil? What characteristics? Why do you say that you've made a body fossil? How do you know and tell body fossils from trace fossils? And tell me, most importantly, why you call your fossil a body fossil. Okay, so there's the element or the characteristic or property of it being the body. Okay, that is true, and it is also the entire, remember that we refer to the body as the entire structure of either the plant or the animal. Okay, so it's a very good answer. I like your answer. Okay, so those who have done trace fossils, if I could see some hands up, and maybe you're going to explain to me your trace fossil, and more importantly, why your design makes it a trace fossil. Okay, Hugh, let's go. Alright, so it is trace fossil because you say, very nice, it doesn't give you the full body, that's true. It is a part of the animal or a part of the plant, and in your case you made okay, so you did the paw print of the dinosaur. Okay, very good. So your trace fossil is basically the activity, it shows the activity of the animal where it was walking or where it had lived, something of that sort, but it showed an activity, it showed something that the animal was doing. It wasn't the full body of the animal, it wasn't full structure, it was only the paw. So it's a trace of the animal, and therefore it is a trace fossil. Okay, very good. Okay, so now let's look at our models. Okay, some of you can hold it in your hands. I see some of them are dry, but most of you will probably need to just look at your friends from over, or just look at the ones that are close by you. That'll be a good idea. Okay, so in your mixture you had your plaster of Paris and water. And what does the plaster of Paris represent in fossil development? What we've learned at the very beginning of the lesson, when we were talking about the Triceratops and how time had went past, and now the Triceratops had sunk deeper into the ground, and his bones sunk into the rocks. and they became hardened and fossilized. So in the real world, we have our sand, but in our model that we made, the plaster de Paris represents, it shows us an example. We're not using real sand, we're using a model. So the model is going to show us something that happens in reality, and in this case, what happens in fossil development. So our plaster of Paris in the real world, in regards to how fossils are created, refers to which part of the real world application? Anybody want to give this a try? Okay, you've heard the whole story, okay? I know you know the answer. So I'm going to tell it to you again. It means, oh, see that there's a hand there, okay? You can try. Very, very good. Okay, well done to you. So your plaster of Paris represents your sand, or the rocks that the body finally settled into and took the shape in that rock. So well done to you. Okay, so the next one was a very easy one. It was just testing your knowledge for you to define or to take in out what from the notes that you've been given. And that is, what is a fossil? It's okay if you don't remember the words that we put together on the board, but as long as you have a nice definition that doesn't take or add anything from our definition, you can use your own words. Even if you reflect back on the story that we did and the examples that we discussed, anything of that will be good. What is a fossil? So a fossil, yes, yes, very good. It is the remains of dead plants or animals. Don't forget that, okay? It's not only animals. In the story, we only did an example of a triceratops, but in reality, it can be a plant or animal. Okay, developing on that, why are they important to us, to paleontologists? Why are fossils important to even scientists? I know we discussed this, so you guys, you boys and girls, should know why. I mean, we're learning about fossils, but why do we need to learn about them? Why are they important to us? Do they make any difference in our lives? Yes, they do. They tell us about. Very good. They tell us about life. So they tell us about life and also about the history of life. So when we know this, we have a better understanding about our environment and about the different plants and animals that have existed before the time that we were alive. The worksheet uses a very nice word. It's the word prehistoric, if you remember back. And that word tells us about the time before humans were on Earth. Okay, so I have an activity at the back, and I know that a few of you who had completed your models had already started on the crossword. So those of you who are now waiting for your fossils to dry and have done the 5 questions and answers and corrected it, you can now complete that activity. And for those of you who are still busy with your fossil making, then you can do that as homework, but don't forget to make sure that you have the answers for those 5 questions. So if any of you still need help, still need answers, maybe I've said an answer too fast, then you can just come to me and I'll help you out. Or you can just refer to your friend's work if they are done and have taken down the right answer. Okay, so your challenge question is, which should not be very challenging because I've already described what trace and body fossils are, and we've also discussed it in terms of your models. So say I'm a paleontologist and I have found a fossil that looks like a paw. So I want to know, would I be correct in calling it a trace fossil? Yes or no? And if yes, why am I correct? And if no, why am I incorrect? So I'm going to write it down on the board, I'm going to take it down, and you are going to give me a nice reason as to whether I'm correct or not. And if I am, you're going to give me a reason, and if I'm not, you're going to give me a reason. All right, and that's it for today. I'm going to be coming around to check your work, and if you need any help, I am here. I can see some very nice fossils and some very nice designs. Feel free to add some details, maybe you have some colors that you'd like to put on, and you can save it, and maybe you could even do it at home. Any questions, I will answer.